Sharps 1874 here. Hello YouTube. Doing another video. I've been planning on or thinking about doing this video for quite some time. And it has nothing to do with the family party I went to yesterday, where I talked to a relative and was asking, well, he was telling me that he was going to purchase a firearm and he had taken the concealed carry class. And when I asked him what kind of a pistol he was getting, or what type of a handgun I should say he was getting, he just knew that it held 12 rounds, and he thought it was semi-automatic. So, for this dear loved one, I wanted to anyway, give just a little bit of a quick handgun 101 on the different types of handguns there are, because it can be confusing. So, first of all, you've got your classic revolver. It's a revolver because, well, the cylinder revolves. Been around for a long time. This is a revolver. Now, there are some who will dispute the actual definitions, but this, on the other hand, is a pistol. Here's a Colt 1911, and this would be considered a pistol, not a revolver. So you've got the two classifications. Now, when you get into whether your revolver class and your pistol class, then it gets really interesting. The easiest to go through is the revolver. Now, there's what they call double action and single action. So this Ruger is single action. You cock it, you shoot it. You pull the trigger and it fires. You pull that trigger as much as you want, nothing's going to happen. You have to cock it first, then you pull the trigger and it'll go off. Whereas with the double action, you've seen this Ivers Johnson before. You can cock it, but you can also pull the trigger. This has a really heavy trigger pull. And so this has two actions. It has a single action, and it's got the I will cock myself and then I will fire. Now, this is something that some people may or may not understand. Those who are really afraid of guns, we have made a lot of advances over the years. Notice this pistol right here. Here's the firing pin. When that goes off, that goes down, hits the bullet, and the gun fires. If this is slightly resting on the bullet and you drop it and that hammer hits something hard, you're driving the firing pin right into the bullet, and you're going to get the gun's going to fire. Not the safest handgun in the world. Modern guns, notice there's no firing pin right here. And if you look back in here, you've got the firing pin and a transfer plate. And so even if there's a bullet on this cylinder, if you drop this, you're not going to transfer any energy from the hammer to the bullet. Much safer. Still, most states, I think, don't like you to carry, unless you've got a permit, a revolver with one under the hammer. So anyway, so that brings up another good point. Revolvers, you have, again, single action, double action, and with a revolver, you've got hammer fire. This is the hammer goes off, boom. I've got snap caps in here, so I'm not really worried about that. Those of you who don't know what a snap cap is, it's a dummy bullet with a rubber tip, so the firing pin hits that rubber tip, and you don't have to worry about any damage to your firing pin. So keep in mind, this is a hammer-fired single-action revolver. Hammer-fired double-action revolver. Okay. The reason that's important, because when you get to the pistols, you've got single action pistols, double action, single action pistols, double action only, Then you've got hammer-fired and striker-fired pistols. So you've got all sorts of different types of pistols. Let's just quickly review what those are. So here's our little Bauer. This is a striker-fired pistol, semi-automatic. Notice there is no hammer. When you cock it, you can see that it's cocked. The little button has come out right there. When you cock it, the firing pin is held back by the sear. I'm going to show you that in just a second. And then when you pull the trigger, it fires the striker, or the firing pin goes into the bullet. So let's look at that really quick. So we'll just disassemble it. It's always fun to get off when you've got around there. There we go. All right. Now, and let me get that. Here is the striker, or the firing pin, held back by the sear, and it's out of its channel now, so it's not pointing in the right direction, but that will travel down into the bullet. So let me take that off. There's the sear that holds it back. That's held back by this little protrusion right there. It's, you can just kind of see that. All right. That sits in this slot. So you can see how that travels. It's held back under spring tension. The sear pulls it off, and then the firing pin goes down and strikes the bullet. Okay, single action striker fired. Let's put this back together. Okay. Single action striker fired. This is single action hammer fired. You pull the trigger all you want, nothing's going to happen. You have to cock it, and then you can pull the trigger. Now, before we get too carried away, we will quick do a quick safety check. Everything's fine. So, on a single action pistol, when you rack it round into the cylinder, you cock it. That's your single action. When you fire it, it does one thing. The trigger does one thing. All it does is fire the pistol. Single action, hammer fired. Another example of striker fired would be something like your XDS or VXDs. Here's the striker right here. It gets pulled partially back when you cock it. And then when you pull the trigger, it disengages the striker hits the bullet and fires. Now you have some guns like this, which are really kind of a hybrid between the two. This actually has a hammer. When you pull the trigger, the hammer hits the firing pin, which hits the bullet. So it's not a striker. This is kind of a hammer fired, but this is what's considered double action only. You cannot cock this hammer. No matter what you do, it will not cock, it will not stay back. The only way to fire the gun is to pull the trigger. It has a very, very long trigger pull. It starts here, goes all the way back there. You have to give it a little bit of a half cock to get it going, but then it starts and boom. So this is double action only. And with all the striker-fired pistols that I know of, they all have a long trigger pull. And whereas with the single action hammer fired, they have a short trigger pull, always very consistent. Now there's another variety of pistol, and quite frankly it's one of my favorites, which is and I know there's some who won't agree with me, but I like the double action, single action. Now what does that mean? So here's a pistol. It's a SIG 226. You can cock it just like a single action, and you can fire it. But you can also, notice where you cock it, the trigger pulls back, and you fire it. But you can also put your finger on the trigger, pull it back, and have a double action. Now, on a pistol like this, they have this little device right here, which is called a decocking lever. And so it's cocked. You can push down on the decocking lever and safely take your hammer down. And there's lots of techniques that people use. They'll grab this and then pull it and go in. Really, the decocking lever is a very, very safe way to go. One of the advantages of a double action, single action is when you're pulling, you've got a 6 or 7 pound trigger pull, but if you cock it, you've only got a 3 pound trigger pull. It's really quite a nice pistol. People don't like the double action, single action because the first one is a hard trigger pull, and then after that it's a very light trigger pull, and when you're doing a lot of practice, they're saying it's not consistent. Well, the SIG P226 has been out there for a long time, and a lot of people like them. I like it, but I got to tell you, I'm a fan of a hammer-fired pistol. I like to know that I can cock it and fire it. Something like the SIG I showed you before. In this one, you've got to give it a half cock before you can pull it. You just won't do it until you have to do a half cock. And something like this, every time it's going to fire. So, you've got revolvers, you've got pistols. In revolvers, you've got double action, single action, hammer fired. Those are your choices. Very simple. Beautiful guns. Pistols, a little bit more complicated. People have different names for their mechanisms. But you've got some hammer fired, you've got some striker fired, you've got single action, double action only, double action, single action. You've got a myriad of different things. You can search on the internet and find tons of information. But I'm Sharps 1874, and I just thought you might want to know about these things. So, have a great day.